fob low. What?
All right. Well, it's a beautiful Saturday. Aaron and I are heading to Worth Harley Davidson today. They're doing the open house kind of thing, but they're also doing a car show and a bike show, which is kind of an added bonus. But the one thing that we're really going for is to check out bars. I've got the stock bars, and I'd like to go a little higher, maybe 10s. And Aaron and I are just looking at getting some quotes and get some answers. So thought I'd bring you along on this so that maybe answer some of the questions you might have on getting bars.
Hello and welcome to Road Rush Nation. I'm Terry, your host here, and thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the channel. Really appreciate it. If you're a member of the nation, thank you so much. But if you'd like to be a member of the nation, it's free. All you need to do is hit that subscribe button and you're in. All right, so as the beginning of this video is explaining that we are heading to Worth to go do some information gathering on getting new bars put on our bikes. Now, I've been wanting to do this for the last, probably a year and a half. And what I did is I noticed on the long rides that I was getting some fatigue spots in like my shoulders and in my middle of my back, and I thought, I really wish I had bars just a little bit higher. I don't want 12s, I don't want 14s. Well, actually between 10s and 12s is what I have been looking at. So I wanted to do some investigating and get some answers by going to Worth and talking to the parts and the service department. Now, currently, like I said, I have stock bars on mine, and you can do an adjustment where you can roll your bars back and it can give you a little bit more comfort, but it wasn't quite doing it for me. I just needed that little bit more. So I wanted to see about getting some answers, and I thought, let me just go right to my dealership and write to the guys that would have the answers I was looking for. Now, one thing I will say is when you talk about getting new bars, every person is different. Even though some people will say, we always go with 12s or 14s, it may not be comfortable for you. If you can, and this is what I was fortunate to do, is if the dealership has a bike similar to yours with different height bars, go sit on it and see what you feel. I was fortunate the day that we were there that that Worth had a Street Glide there with 12-inch bars on it. Now, they didn't have one with 10s. I wasn't looking at 14s because I knew that would be too tall. Now, also, one reason I was looking at getting these bars is because we're doing our long-distance trip here at the end of this week where we're going to Maine. So I've got lots of hours to be riding, and I want to be comfortable. One of the other things is not just comfort that I was looking at for getting taller bars. Taller bars also can be an answer if you're having problems making those tight turns with your bike. If you notice when you turn your bike all the way to the right or to the left and your handlebars are kind of pulling you over the tank, your bars could be too short for you. And you may need to do an adjustment. Maybe it's just rolling them back, or maybe you need to go with taller bars. I'm just putting that out there because it's something that I discovered from some experts that I never thought about. It actually can increase your tight turn abilities. So that was the other thing. Now, one thing about installing bars, this is just what my choice was. My wiring for my bars is all internal with the stock bars I have, and I wanted to keep it that way. I was not looking at asking Aaron to do this because I knew it would be time consuming. You've got to have the right tools, and if you muck this up, you can pinch wires, you can pinch cables, and then you have a whole nother group of issues to do. People will say, you can put bars on in just a couple of hours. Well, if you don't know all the parts that you need and the things you need to do this right, it can be a dangerous thing. So I just decided, nope, I'm willing to put the extra money and have the professionals do it. They've got the tools, they know the parts that I would need. They know that you've got to replace the bushings up top for your bars, because if you've been riding for any amount of time, those bushings are set, and their rubber bushings is basically set to the style of the bars that you have and the weight and stuff, so you have to replace those. They also would know whether you need to have new cabling, which is different than saying you need an extension for different portions, different like your cable, your brake. You don't necessarily need complete new cables, you might just need the extensions. And that was the other thing that I thought was an advantage by having Worth do it. Plus, I wanted to stay married, so I wasn't going to ask Aaron to do this. So, like I said before, I walked in and went right to the parts guys and started asking some questions and told them, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking at getting new bars, and I'm looking between 10s and 12s. And of course, the parts guys are always, hey, well, the most common is 12s. I says, yeah, but I don't need to go that far. I don't think I need it because I just want a little bit more height. I don't need an exaggeration of height. So luckily, like I said before, they had a Street Glide with 12-inch bars on there. I sat on it. It wasn't bad, but it was just above what I wanted. I sat on the bike, cranked it both far left and far right to see that comfort of, is it pulling me or did I feel like I couldn't reach them? So that convinced me that I wanted the 10s. And even though they kept coming back, well, the 12s are the most popular, I says, yep, but I want the 10s. And I have to say, I was really glad I went with the 10s. There was also something else we looked at, which is the spread of the bars. And that's the comfort you would have with where your natural spread is with your hands. And I have to say, Thrasher Supply has a great video, it's a couple years old, about explaining what that is and what is your comfort, where you can figure out exactly what is your spread that your hands are comfortable with. So I didn't want one that spread my hands too far out to the side. You could have 12s and they could be spread way far out so your hands are way out to the sides, and I didn't want to have that either. The other thing they asked me was, are you going for style? Well, that really wasn't my primary. My primary focus was comfort. I says, if I can get the bars I like that are the right height and have the right spread, I'm not that picky on style. I want quality, but I'm not looking at, oh, I'm doing this because I'm taking it to a bike show or something like that. I want to do this for my comfort for riding. So as we proceeded to do a lot of talking with the parts guy, he also, it was really kind of convenient, whispers down in my ear and he goes, oh, by the way, we're doing a special on bars. If you buy bars this weekend, you get them for half off. Really? Okay, that makes it a little more tempting because quality bars are not going to be cheap. You're going to run about $400 for a quality set of bars. I'm just giving you that price range. It can be higher, it can be lower, but most of the time it's going to be about $400 if you're looking for something with quality. So I sat on it. I says, yep, I want the 10s. Now, I says, now let me ask this is, what would the cost be to have the install? And then at that point, we went back to our service and talked to my favorite guy, Bobby, who handles all of our service on our bikes, as far as he's the service rep there. And we talked about it, and he says, yeah, that can be, get ready for this, an $800 to $1,000 job. And I went, okay. And it's kind of what I expected, only because I have heated grips. I want the wires to be interior to my bars. I don't want them on the outside. I want this done right. And I knew it was a time-consuming job. If anybody tells you that they can do bars in 2 hours, walk away, because they're not doing them right and you're going to have issues, and they may not know whether you're going to need extensions or all new cables. And that's a kicker too. When it comes down to extensions and if you're going to need cables for your new bars, stop. Don't ask on social media, because you're going to get a variety of answers. And the biggest thing is, what's the age of your bike is going to determine, and the height of your bars is going to determine whether you need to have extensions or you're going to need whole new cables. So I would suggest that you go to the professionals, let them tell you what the parts are that you're going to need, and then you can take that information if you want to buy them yourself and do that, fine. In fact, the parts guy there at Worth was great. He says, I would rather order too much, and if you don't need it, then we just take it off the bill. So he had ordered some extra cable pieces that we didn't need, because he said, you're kind of in between. We just want to make sure everything's good, that I didn't need. And at the end, they just took it off the bill. And I'm glad, because if the parts weren't there and I'm waiting for my bike, that's not a good thing either. So I was really appreciative. So basically, they said, we'll come out and pick up the bike and put the new bars on. And they did. And I have to say, the minute I sat on it, it was like a new bike. Now, because I had the 10s, here was the other issue that came up, and it wasn't a big issue. I anticipated this issue was going to happen, is mirrors. Of course, on my Street Glide, it's got the stock mirrors, which are in the Batwing. Well, those bars, the 10-inch, will go right across the middle of those. So I had to get new mirrors, which basically I decided, okay, I'll go with whatever you guys have in stock. Went through that whole thing, and of course, I find the most expensive. We put them on, and I will tell you, it was like riding a whole new bike. It was like my whole bike had a whole new to it and feel to it, one that I really liked. Now, here's the other thing that you want to think about is once you get the bars on, wherever they're going to set them, you can adjust them later if you want to roll them back, roll them forward a little bit, but you're going to need to be aware of when you turn those things tight, is it slapping the tank? Is it hitting the fairing? So be aware of that if you're going to adjust it. But basically what we did is I spent some time riding it for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and I says, yeah, I just need them rolled back a little bit. Aaron and I knew we could do this, and so that's the part I want to show you, is if you have somebody else put your bars on and you need to adjust it, or even if you have your stock bars now, we're going to show you how to adjust those bars so you feel comfortable. Riding home yesterday with the new bars, love the height of them, but we need to adjust them. I want to roll them down a little bit, so you really don't get the feel of that until you've been out riding and you kind of go, okay, I just want to adjust just a little bit. So we're going to show you how to roll your bars back to make the adjustment, and Aaron's going to help me out to do that. Okay,
so we'll do this in a couple of stages. We'll actually do the bars and get the bars pulled back just a little bit, have her sit on the bike and make sure that it actually feels comfortable, that her arms are not too far forward, overextended, too far back. And then we'll tighten the bars back down. Then we'll get into the control adjustments and lever adjustments that have to follow that. Because generally when you pull the bars back, you're going to wind up with your controls. They're going to be off a little bit. Your thumb operates a lot of the controls, so you kind of want it where you can actually get to it.
Yeah, and you want to be level with your clutch and your front brake so that your hands aren't dipping down. That will also change on your fatigue on your wrist as you're riding. So those are things you want to check for.
And then last but not least, we'll go ahead and get the mirrors adjusted.
New mirrors.
To start off,
move out of your way.
So that I can evaluate how much we've actually moved the bars, I'm going to go ahead and take a measurement in terms of having a reference point to start with. So I'm going to measure from the Batwing to the very edge of the bar, and we're just about right on 2 inches. And you might see a slight variation between the two sides. And in this case, it's probably less than 1/16 of an inch. And it's all in how it sets in the rubber and the cradle where the clamp is. So that done, when you first get started, and again, this won't necessarily work on all models, you're going to have to take a look at the lower plastic cover that comes up by your ignition. If it has a notch in the top so that you can actually pull it back, then you can actually use this technique to make the minor adjustment to your bars. If it does not, it becomes way more complicated, and you actually have to start removing the Batwing to get down to the bolts for the clamps. In this case, hers has got the notch. I just adjusted mine day before yesterday. It also had the notch, so you're going to start out with removing. You've got 2 side bolts. You've got one up here on this side and one on the left, and they will take a 5/32 Allen to go ahead and remove those. So we're going to start with that. The other thing you're going to have to do, especially if you have the mounted turn signals the way these are on the Street Glide and the Ultras, is you're going to have to loosen up the acorn nut that controls the top portion of that mount. Because if you happen to have a socket that has the 1/4 inch, that has the much longer shaft on the Allen piece to this tied to the socket, that would actually do a much better job. This is going to be tight enough that I'm going to have to use a wrench to actually help. And because this was just put on yesterday, there we go. It was torqued down pretty good. Now, you do not want to remove these because you'd play hell getting them back in. Because if something can slip, this is the damn thing that will. There we go.
So would you advise a tank protector?
Probably not a bad idea.
Which we have, but we didn't put it down.
Mine weren't this tight. Yours were locked down pretty tight.
Well, they do a good job at Worth Harley Davidson.
All right. So that's really all you need to do to loosen this up. Yeah, you can just get to the 2 bottom nuts, and then just watch the edge, the outer edges of your Allen against the bottom edge of the radio, your trim piece right here, because the angle that you need to go in on the nuts, it's all plastic. It'll kind of push up out of the way, so you just kind of need to make sure you're not really rotating up against that plastic, or you'll begin to start peeling the plastic back. You don't want that. So all I'm doing right now is making sure that they're nice and snug, and then I'll go ahead and slap a wrench on it and finish tightening these down. And for those of you that are thinking, hey, you just need to get the right tool for the right job, I've got so damn many tools now that I very rarely use because they're almost single job related tools that I didn't want anymore. So I decided to improvise, adapt, and overcome. So just don't even comment. Now, on the plastic piece, you do have 2 clips. And on these clips, make sure that you start the clips up in first, just like that. Then roll the bottom up and in. Now you're going to have to take and do your alignment on the hole. And that is a little more difficult because it is a little under pressure. So what I do is I use my same Allen wrench to kind of go in the hole and line up the plastic with my threads, and then I start the screw. I will not tighten the screw all the way down because what I have found is if I do, it kind of torques the other side and makes it that much more difficult to get it started. Now these are not torqued down very tight at all.
Well, you wouldn't want to torque them down too hard because it would break the plastic, correct?
Correct. It'll crack it.
Yep. So don't get overzealous on that.
Well, you have the acorn nuts that will also supply tension. All right, then tighten your acorn nuts back up. They're not real tight to begin with. All right. And there you have it. Go back up and test them, make sure they don't move.
I hope this helped you out if you're looking at getting bars and maybe had some questions, and maybe this answers some questions for you. I really appreciate you hanging out with us today and checking out the channel. If you're a member of the nation, thank you so much. But if you'd like to be a member of the nation, it's free. Just hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Ride safe, and I hope to catch you on the highways.